So I'm a third year BTM student, Business Technology Management at Laurier on the Brantford campus. I'm just completing my 3B semester this summer and then applying for co-ops for my 4 month starting in September. So going through that process just like every other business student right now. And throughout my previous 2 years, I've been building a wedding videography business. It was a passion in just cameras and photo and video, and tried out a whole bunch of different areas of video and real estate, music videos, etc. And kind of really narrowed down that wedding video is what I like to do. It allowed me to not only meet and hang out with fun, awesome people all day, but also kind of capture a moment that they'll also be looking back forever, and really something I enjoy doing. And people were able to kind of gain a lot of value from me providing them with this service. So throughout that, I kind of struggled with a whole bunch of areas, which is like the business, the sales, as well as kind of just developing skills within the camera, and then also not having the money to fund a nice camera and to kind of how to start there. So I started with my iPhone way back, and that was a lot of fun doing that on kind of real estate level. And then throughout that, I kind of learned the skills and what people wanted and how they were able to manage and attract and what they wanted out of their videos. And I took that a step further than buying a T3i $300 camera off Kijiji, and that was a blast. And once again, still a pretty bad camera, but you're able to make it work, and you're able to really utilize those skills of just having a camera that people think are real and people think are, you know what you're doing. So you kind of show off, come off as that professional, and you're able to leverage that and being able to use that to make people think I know what I'm doing when I really didn't. So I then kind of did my first wedding, got a little lucky, but a little hard work also. Kind of messaged a few people, and one of my friends was also starting wedding photography, was able to give me a free client. So I was able to do a wedding video for free. Ended up getting tipped some money, so I didn't work totally for free in the end, but something I was willing to do to get started and build my portfolio. And then once I got that first video, you put that video out, you put it in Facebook groups, I put it online, the couple shares it, and then I was able to utilize that as a single portfolio piece and grab a few more kind of leads and convert them to clients, get me to book them, and just slowly raise my price from there to where I am now. Is essentially I'm shooting 6 to 7 weddings this summer, which was kind of my goal. My goal was to hit that, but my goal price was to have $2,000 bookings. So something to keep me busy, not have to work a part-time or full-time summer job, and just be able to do weddings on the weekend, do 6 or 7 of them, and kind of pays my rent and gas bills and a little bit of tuition while I'm still pursuing co-op and doing my classes and working on that. I'm also at a point now where I'm only able to do 6 or 7 with time, but I'm also building out scaling to having students and other people who are passionate for video being able to also shoot and edit for me. And then also a little bit of a mentoring program where I have currently just 1 or 2 students who I'm just texting daily and who ask me questions and advice, and looking to build that. I'm pretty slow on it right now, but that's a next goal of where I want to take that also.
Started with it. So like, what was the first catalyst to really push you down this route? Because like you said, there was the real estate stuff, and then you like getting into it. Like, what was the main point where you said, okay, I can actually push myself and make this into something?
Yeah. So first one was I just met a real estate agent who just really wanted video. I was doing videos with my iPhone like since I can remember, with whether it's like stop motion of Lego or my dog out in the backyard kind of thing. So I just had a real estate agent kind of, I think they posted somewhere on Facebook, and my mom saw it and sent it to me, and I was like, okay, I'll do this, like just help her out. It was totally free, and I literally had my iPhone, just walked around the house, and put in iMovie, and that was the video. It was put some music, little voiceover, kind of like relatively basic and relatively kind of pretty bad quality too, but they were happy. They absolutely loved it and provided a lot of value for them. And yeah, that was that catalyst moment where I showed it to my parents, and my dad was like, you could be charging $200 for this. And I was like grade 11, grade 12. And I was like, no way could be doing this for $300, $200. So I sent out 40 emails, 50 emails to all these real estate agents with that video, just asking for $50, and not a single one replied. And then, so that kind of was a bummer, but also a catalyst in the way of like, okay, let's try something different. And then I saw the wedding video opportunity. I also saw that there was not many wedding videographers in the KW region. Then there was also just kind of these lower budget brides who wanted video but couldn't afford the $3,000 or $2,000 that wedding videographers are charging. And I'm like, if I could start there and provide something to those people who have a need that can't be met, then that would be an awesome way in. And that's kind of where it all started and where I was able to get my foot in the door and also build myself up that way.
About like, what can I do to build skills in the meantime? Or like, if I'm finding difficulties with employability now, what should I be doing? And I think Liam's, from what I've heard from him, his mindset is really correct in a lot of ways. And I thought this would be, or we thought this would be a good example to kind of draw out for this group. But Liam, I wanted to kind of bring up one point of your story that you told initially, which was that when you were first doing the videos, you yourself were actually not super enthusiastic or impressed with your own product, yet the possibility that the reception from your audience was going to be good. So how did you, like, can you explain that feeling a little bit and like point you in a forward direction after that?
Yeah, so I've never been a totally perfectionist. I've been someone who, when the work's done, that's enough. So I was fortunate to not be overly upset when the work wasn't what I've seen on YouTube, and I kind of had to work myself out of that at the time, and that's where I wanted to be, and that's where I want to get. But you take that these aren't the best videos that I could be making, or that this is the best that my equipment can do, but yet you still find a way to pitch value and to showcase value to the person you're working with or creating the video for. And there's a lot of times where they also don't know what's better, and you just have to also recognize that what you're providing they think is awesome, and you can really demonstrate that either how you explain it to them. When you send it to them, you tell them how awesome it is. You don't tell them, oh, I could have done better. You tell them that this is a good video and that they can showcase this. And there's a lot of times that I've been learning that story and the way a video can kind of evoke emotion has a lot more effect or greater benefit than just how good it looks. And if there's a little bit more meaning to what you're creating rather than just creating something that looks phenomenal, it can provide a lot more value. And that's also where I've been striving to utilize that understanding to provide a lot more emotion, effect, and value to these people that I'm working with.
Yeah, and I think that's a good example of, I think when people are entrepreneurial opportunity, like putting things into context around big corporations or very complicated things, when really the challenge a lot of the time is just finding a market that's adjacent to something that you're interested in or that you have skills in, where there's a demand for something that's maybe inconvenient for a lot of the members of the market to access. And really just recognizing that, and not only recognizing it, but then digging into it. And like you said, like realizing where your contribution is specifically relative to the other.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of where I was able to, once again, get my foot in the door with when you recognize within the wedding, for me, wedding video, and I've seen it with a whole bunch of other areas, especially within the creative field and creative industry, where there's your high level artists or your high level creators are creating the best work, even just whether it's video ads, paid marketing, digital marketing, anything, even SEO. There's a whole bunch of opportunities for businesses that can't afford the top level marketing agencies or top level work, but still need something. And that's where I was able to kind of get my foot in the door. And there's still a whole bunch of other cracks that I want to explore moving forward. And even just any student can kind of leverage being an opportunity for someone who can't afford the best.
Yeah, the next thing I kind of wanted to bring up was how you grew the network out from the first wedding. So you kind of had a wedding, you found some techniques that you liked and that had good reception. And then what was your next step to kind of look for opportunities after that?
Yeah, perfect. So once again, that first wedding video was so bad, and something that even looking back, I'm like, I can't believe I created this and thought it was good. But that's just, once again, where as your skills develop and as you become more aware of these techniques and what people are looking for, you just naturally get better. And once again, I also recognized, and the people recognized, that I was starting out and they were happy with what I produced, and so was I. And so yeah, moving forward I created one and I was like, this is awesome. The people are awesome. I had so much fun. This is something I want to keep doing. And kind of that passion really grew after being turned down for 40 emails in real estate. But I wanted to approach with that same kind of attempt because I felt like it was something that has the potential to work, just it didn't work the first time. So I'm going to try it again. I actually then found connected with a whole bunch of wedding planners, feeling like, okay, let's connect with wedding planners. They're planning a wedding. Why? Let's see if they'll want to book me for some. Then I actually got once again no responses. I think part of that could be catered towards how I pitched the email. They're very elementary written for what I was capable of at the time, and doing them now, I'd probably put a lot more sales twist on it. But very neutral. Got no emails back, and then I found I followed them all on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all this stuff, and I found one was actually then getting married the following summer. I messaged her 2 weeks before her wedding. Hey, do you need a wedding videographer? And just happened that she was still looking for one. Then they booked me, and I was able to kind of take what I learned from that first one and how can I make this one better, knowing that once again, growing my portfolio really enhances what I'm capable of gathering in the terms of clients. So invested in a lot better gear, spent some time just out with my dog again, practicing how can I really make sure this one's perfect to get more ones like this or better weddings even on top of this. So to date, that's the wedding video I'm the most proud of. I worked very hard in preparation for that one and to really make that one out of the park and over deliver in a way. So that way in the future, this over deliver becomes the normal. So yeah, then took that video, once again, shared it in all these Facebooks. The bride loved it, shared it on her Facebooks. And then moving forward, I really recognize that this is a referral-based industry, and it's a lot less kind of your leads don't come back to you in too often, or not in the way that you want it. So yeah, it's how can you get these people to really mention your name when their friends are getting married or their cousins or someone they know. So it's growing your network, and in a way I call it like tribe creation, a little method that I've been working on currently. But yeah, so I then took that wedding. They paid me $300, pretty small for what the industry's doing. But and then I took 200 of those dollars and gave it right back to her in the form of a wedding video playbook. Gifted it to her for Christmas, dropped it off her house with like a Starbucks card saying thank you. And she absolutely loved that. And within the 2 months following that, 3 of her best friends ended up booking me. And that's just kind of how the portfolio grows, on top of me just getting some leads from Facebook and Facebook weddings where people, once again, who can't afford the top wedding videographers are still looking for something. And I was able to really capitalize on that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to hear all the concepts that you're using, because these are a lot of the like fundamentals that I talk to students about, and I think you're implementing all of them right off the bat. And I guess like the question I would be asking you is like, strategy wise, how did you decide to use these concepts or these methods, right? Like for example, like sending 40 emails to test it out, and then okay, you get no response, and then now you have to iterate on it, right? So like that iteration process is key. But like, how did you, I guess, that conclusion, or like how did you build your strategy around that?
Oh yeah, it's kind of like based off of like the concept of just brand awareness. So I was aware that I may not be getting any responses, but no responses now doesn't mean no responses in a year. And that's kind of the approach, like that my work wasn't totally wasted. So I was fully prepared sending those 40 emails to all these wedding planners to know that none of them may not respond. But in a year from now, when I have 5 wedding videos and they see me on Instagram or they see my website or come across me or someone mentions it to them, they may recognize, oh, this is the guy that was really hungry when he first started, and look where he is now. Maybe he's worth really considering. So there was that approach of like kind of putting a little like forward thinking and a little bit of trust into the efforts, and knowing that like all work isn't just going down the drain and it'll come back to help me later. So that was a little bit of strategy there. It wasn't something I was like strategically thinking of, just aware of prepping when I was doing these things and to motivate me and make me feel like to continue doing it. And then just in terms of kind of the referral based marketing is just knowing that these people, like they're choosing you to be around for the most intimate day of their life. How do you get them to really value that, and how do you enhance that experience, whether it's on the day, whether it's after the day? Because the more memorable you are that day without being intrusive, is the more they're gonna kind of do the marketing for you in a way. So I put a lot of emphasis on the customer experience and how can I really benefit you when you're booking me.
Right. Yeah, and it makes total sense, right? A lot of the strategies that salespeople will talk about is like repeat business, right? And you're kind of using that same philosophy, even though this is a one-time kind of deal, but that referral method is essentially the same, right? So yeah, I mean, pretty smart to figure that out. I guess the other question I would ask is, did you figure this out from school, or are you just an ingenious enough guy that you figured this out on your own?
I was fortunate enough to do enough trial and error just to kind of know that this somewhat works. And then also just, yeah, school, not totally, but just, yeah, doing this throughout my life. And even in the way of sports, you see someone around the arena, you play against them, and a year later you're on their team. And it's that relationship building and just how valuable having a good relationship with people is. And if it's sending an email now to have them email you back in 2 years, that's something I'm totally fine with, and I'll be grateful for 2 years from now. So
Yeah, I think you're super underestimating your problem solving ability here, number one. But it's interesting to hear you, just because of the stage you're in, kind of take these next practical steps, but then also maybe do the education or just maybe your own investigation, like find the labels for or like the names or the techniques that describe what you're doing. So it's kind of interesting that seems to be happening simultaneously. But I wanted to ask you, and I didn't really push you on this when we initially discussed this this business idea, but what is your ambition for this? Like, when you think of this 2 to 5 years down the road, like I know you're excited to have a bunch of weddings scheduled, but and you mentioned earlier something about scale, but I'm curious what that looks like for you a little down the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. My initial goal when I started this was there's a dream camera I wanted, and how can I get this without having to pay for it directly was my initial goal. Is how can I afford to buy this and have it make money back for me was the real goal. And then I've achieved that one, and some days I look at it and look back and how thankful I am to be able to kind of work to get there. But then yeah, 2 to 5 years from now, there's a lot of directions I want to go in. The main one was just not having to work a full-time 9 to 5 job in the summer, and let's substitute that out with 6 weekends for weddings, and being able to really kind of cut back on work time and put it somewhere that I enjoy doing, and still be able to manage a 4 to 5 course load semester. So that was the current goal leading up to this summer, and probably next summer following I'll be where I want to be. But then 2 to 5 years from now, it's what I graduate doing and what I choose to do, whether it's follow school or follow wedding video, which is something that I plan to do, whether it's full-time or part-time. But inevitably, I think it's just to raise prices, provide value to people who are even willing to pay more, or even more value your work. And how can you kind of find those people? Because they're a lot harder to find as your prices go up. Who has used budgets for these more expensive weddings, and how can you find them? And then also coming back to how I started, is how can I help more people start? Is something that I found a lot of fun from doing, just with the 1 and 2 kids that I'm mentoring, who are 15 years old and the other one's 19, and they're absolutely awesome. And I just love the day-to-day helping them out with easy, simple problems that I have, or I once had, that are now simple to me but super complex to them. And how can I help them get through those things, or save them a lot of time, that they're, instead of failing, let's just kind of help them understand why this works now, instead of having to take 2 years to fail and understand it. So I would also hope to be doing that. And that once again falls back into that scaling, is how can I hit that low end market of weddings, but still provide an awesome, valuable experience in video, and teach people who are interested and have a passion the skills to also grow their own independent business later on.
Dan, I feel like you can relate to that a little.
Dan might have given me the idea.
Yeah, well, we won't steal any credit, because ideas are just that. It needs some execution behind it. So But yeah, I mean, Liam's story is like super interesting to me because he's tried all these different things. And I mean, like Josh kind of mentioned there, like that are echoing a lot of the things that I'm trying to do myself. And I see you using a lot of the same strategies, which is just another point I guess I'm coming back to as well. But maybe you can explain to everybody the other things that you do that help to build your skills, because I think that's an important thing for people to really understand is like when you don't know how to do something or you want to try something new, like what do you do? Like what's your process, or how do you figure that out?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing kind of I've really kind of honed down on over the last year, and more specifically within the last 10 to 5 months, is that you only have so many hours in your day, and the things that I'm doing repetitively, mainly within wedding video that take up a lot of my time, it's how can I kind of create a system to really speed this up. That was my first real project to give me these things to have that time and ability to solve these problems, as Dan's mentioning, is how can I speed up things I'm doing on a day-to-day basis and almost eliminate them out of my day. So I've created all these automated systems online using CRMs, which has been never used one before, and it was absolutely awesome to kind of experiment with and automate a lot of emails, a lot of leads, a lot of even just phone calls that I'm no longer having to do. And especially for someone who is, I'm a little more extroverted, but even as an introvert, it makes it a lot easier and a lot kind of takes away that phone call anxiety or Zoom call anxiety of just being able to automate everything into an email and find out whether a lead's hot or warm or hot or cold, and kind of then decide if they're worth your time. So doing that was absolutely like blessing in disguise. I didn't really know what was going to happen, but just once again, something I was trying. And then it has given me a lot of time to then focus on school, focus on other extracurriculars. And just during COVID, I've tried to use my time to gain new skills, whether or not they're relevant to school or not, or just something I have an interest in and want to be able to say I can do, is something that I've really tried to accomplish. So I've been, every month I've set a goal to find something that I have an interest in and just get my toes wet in it. And that's how I started in wedding video. I got my toes wet within real estate video and absolutely fell in love, and now I'm knees deep. And I wanted to really try the similar approach with a lot of other areas. So that's what I've been experimenting with in everything right now.
Yeah, and I think Dan and I kind of talked about on an earlier episode, like when you're starting something new, you should do it a certain number of times just to see the improvement that you'll make in each of those iterations, even subconsciously. But I think that like you kind of brought an interesting thing to mind to me, which is like, if you're gonna really sink into something, do it enough so that you know what a full day of doing that looks like, or until you run out of time, I guess. And then this is something that I've actually experienced personally somewhat recently, like just by adding things to my day and filling it up. And now I can start looking at, okay, like what am I getting the most value out of during the day? What should I spend more time on? What should I automate? What should I get less time on? And I think that really, once you have that full schedule of things and it becomes manageable, then you can really start to focus your execution in the areas that matter. But I do think like, yeah, you really got to dig into it a little bit. And it sounds like that's pretty routine for you when it comes to your hobbies.
Yeah. So once again, I can kind of agree in the way that once you, I find myself doing more things than I've ever done, but yet having way more free time. And it's a weird kind of blend, and I'm not aware of how this works, but I'm doing a lot more day-to-day tasks that once used to take up a lot of my time, but now I'm finding just doing what I need to do out of them, and in a way becoming efficient, and or just have learned how to solve problems that arise faster, or not have these problems occur at all that would have taken up a lot of my time. And I think that's just one thing that comes through doing them over and over and over again, or just iterations or automating, that all these ways can allow you to accomplish more in less.
Yeah, and just to right off that for one more second, I've also found that it's not really up to you to decide. Like you kind of mentioned this with the video not being up to your personal standard of quality, but like it's not really up to you to decide where the value in the thing is. but maybe it is sometimes, but it's often on the reception or the external kind of perception of what you're doing. And for me, I found that like the more I've gotten out of the details, which my personal bias tells me is where the actual work is happening, the more value I tend to bring and the less I feel like I'm working. So I thought your phrase was really good there. Like a lot of the days I have now, I've started to notice that like I don't personally feel like I did that much work today, but it was more concentrated on making decisions or something that is just operating at a different level.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just going to add on there too, like it's strange, but I've experienced a phenomenon where when you pack your schedule, you get the exact, like, it doesn't matter if I do 2 things a day or 10 things a day, I always get them done. So I've just figured out, all right, I might as well put 10 things in there because I'm gonna get them all done anyway, right? And I think your point about like essentially the 80-20 rule, which like you have a variation on, which you could probably tell everybody about, is a great way to kind of make that efficiency happen yourself, right?
Yeah, my variations, the 8, 2, and 90% variation, which is your 8% work, your 2% not work, and then 90% free time. And
sold.
Yeah, that's what I find myself doing most days, is that 80-20, but only actually encompasses like 10% of my day or my work time. But that's also just how I function. I'm very thinker oriented, and I would prefer to decision make rather than work. So saying that, it comes back to finding things that I'm most that allow me to do this, is finding the things that I'm most interested in and filling that 80-20 90% type method with those things, but that are also providing me a lot of value. So that's kind of goes back to what I've mentioned before to you guys, is that every month they set a goal to learn something or accomplish something, which has been the past few months have been learning chess, solving a Rubik's Cube. And the other fun one was I got multiple fish tanks and started breeding shrimp and guppies. Yeah, which is kind of weird, and but like just a process of something that I've never even explored, and became super challenging, but yet you solve these problems, and in a way you actually see your success in the form of like shrimp babies. But
that's how I judge everyone, really.
Yeah, so that was my other kind of hobby, and allows you to learn a whole bunch of different ways to both implement strategies and then also just learn how to solve problems that you never would have expected. I've had so many things go wrong that I've never prepped for, and now whether it's every time I'm going to buy an aquarium off Kijiji, I'm going to make sure there's no cracks in it before I fill it with water, but like that problem may never happen. I may never buy a shrimp tank again, but I may be a lot more conscious when I'm looking at any product again, or anything that could have potential failure before I fill it up, in a way,
right?
Which is a lot theoretical, but yeah, you allow that net problem never happen, and just be a lot more conscious, and something I never would have experienced had I never gone through that.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that it's again another important skill to learn is just, and like the repetition point that Josh brought up earlier, it's like now you're just practicing solving problems. So like the problem that most people have is you don't know what you don't know, right? So you're going to learn something new, but now you've already experienced learning something new 20 times or 50 times or whatever it is. So now you're already primed to start asking questions before you even get there, right? Which is exactly what you want to be doing. So you start learning what you don't know ahead of other people that are just going to start doing stuff and have not thought to even think about asking questions until the problem actually hits, right?
Yeah, and that's totally comparable into school, into even, which I'm going through right now, is just your co-op interviews, and something that just being out and doing your own independent thing, whether it's a fun hobby or an entrepreneurial venture, you get to kind of build that confidence in yourself that you can handle anything in a way, and you can handle mistakes, or you can handle failure, you can handle an abrupt problem that you didn't prep for. And that's been one of the most kind of empowering things about it, in a good way, and sometimes too much. But is that just, yeah, you become way more confident going out anywhere, or encompassing any situation that you may not have even prepared for or thought of. And I am almost at a point where I prepare to be unprepared because I'm so used to that. But yeah, there's all these different things and skills that you just unconsciously learn and adapt to. And even within the wedding video and kind of relating to co-op, which is something that I'm going through, and I think a lot of others are, is I've met all these people getting married and their family and their friends and their bridesmaids and groomsmen, and they're all adults who work real-time jobs, and some are people even within the hiring department, or someone who might be taking on a co-op student, and they're just normal everyday people, and has like drastically brought down the intimidation level into a co-op interview, or even just talking to a boss or someone you're working with or a mentor, as you really learn that they're just normal people too, and makes it far less intimidating.
Yeah, I bet that composure serves you really well in the wedding scenario. But I wanted to actually mention, just on top of what you were saying, because I've also experienced something like that. I'm pretty sure Dan and I have talked about this like just in person way back when that was allowed. But just like how if you go through periods of putting yourself in that state of being unprepared and kind of making it through, you'll find that not only will fewer and fewer things surprise you, which I think is a really important point, but you'll come to appreciate the things that do surprise you, kind of counterintuitively. And you kind of go up against this tidal wave of like, I was always a very anxious person, like in the past, and like every new event was kind of this thing for this like reason to be anxious or to be hesitant. And then you say, you know what, screw this, like I'm just gonna attack these things. And then you see enough of them and you get over that anxiety and you get bored. And instead you're like, man, I wish something would like rattle me today. Or like, you know, if some crazy guy runs down the street, I'm like, yes, like something different is happening. So I think that's a pretty good state to be in. It definitely raises your level of amusement and just chill. And I'm sure like that comes out in the way that you convey yourself.
That's pretty accurate. And I was never that person either. I was always shy, or I wouldn't say shy. I was always pretty extroverted, but timid or afraid to make mistakes. It would be a great way to just kind of word who I was, and afraid of failure. Or now I almost like, yeah, once again, not want to fail, but I want to hit a roadblock sometimes. And
yeah.
Put myself, which is why I put myself through these monthly challenges, is something that I've never thought to do. And let's learn to solve a Rubik's Cube, or let's play against people in chess and see how good I can get. Let's just encounter a problem and learn to solve it.
Sometimes you want the fish tank to have a crack in it, right?
Literally, yeah. My parents wouldn't be happy, but yeah. They're gonna ask, but similar to this concept is, as I was going through these co-op applications and submitting them, once again, I'm not something I'm fully right now invested in, because I haven't decided if I'm gonna take the 4 months in the entrepreneurial area and focus on wedding video and see how far I can take this with a full 4 months, which is something I've never given myself, as I've always been in school or co-op and just working on it outside of school. Co-op work weekends is something I've always done, and I've never dived kind of headfirst into it. I've always just been fortunate to make it work with the time given. So I've been debating giving myself a full 4 months of seeing what I can really accomplish, or going through the co-op and continue to follow the path that I have. Both are, I'm weighing the pros and cons of both. But throughout these co-ops, I was submitting some resumes, and 50% of the cover letters I've submitted, I titled them the best co-op application. Just part of it because I don't care, and it's just like, let's see what happens. But I also wanted to kind of control test and see which ones got me interviews back and how they were handled. And I'm excited to see what comes out of these interviews, and if it does get mentioned. But yeah, I submitted 17 applications and I got 2 interviews, which are not phenomenal numbers, but I'm happy with, despite the work I put in. But yeah, once again, both of them came from the best co-op application. So I'm excited to see. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like I was saying too, I think you should just make sure you get feedback on that too, and just make sure you find out if they picked you for that. I mean, that's a game-winning strategy right there, right?
Yeah, or if they picked you despite that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a
I
great
mean, does it
candidate.
matter?
You have the stupid
Yeah.
title on your resume, but we like you anyway.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So the next one, you mentioned a term kind of discreetly as you were talking. It was like tribal expansion or something like that. Or I was wondering if you could flesh that out. And maybe Dan, I'm curious to put this to you too, because I think the way that you've seen your network grow so far, and the way a lot of networks grow now, is this digital kind of like method that's irrespective of geography or like localism. But this tribal method sounds like it might be something different than that. So curious to hear what that means.
Yeah, so it's been something I've been focusing on is a prime focus of kind of growing my networks. A very similar strategy, but it's a tribe creation is what it's
Right.
called, and it's one of my other mentors within the wedding video aspect kind of has really kind of mentioned this to me and is really pushing it on me, and it has worked for him phenomenally. So it's something I'm willing to try out. But it's the tribe creation approach of growing your network by providing value in a way that no one else has provided value. And then in a way, yeah, creating a tribe of people that kind of would pick you first in a game of dodgeball, despite not being good at dodgeball, is kind of the approach that you're trying to win them over, type thing, just so that they want to work with you. And within the wedding video industry, the way that I'm doing it is at every wedding and every kind of time I meet a vendor, I'm getting the bride and the groom to do a 10-second thank you video to those people. The day after the wedding video, or the day after the wedding, I send those all over to all the vendors I worked with that day, and I say, here's a little referral from the couple. It's a 10-second. It takes 2 minutes with the couple. I just put a mic on them and it's like, hey, can you say thanks to your wedding planner? And they're usually absolutely floored to do it. They love doing it because they've been working with the wedding planner every day for the past 3 months, and they're like, absolutely, we'll thank her and have no problem. They say beautiful things, and then you go, hey, do you want to say it to the photographer too? And then they're like, oh, okay, sure. And then they'll say it to the photographer. And then you'll do the DJ. Hey, do you want to say thanks to the DJ? And it usually becomes a little less sentimental as you go on. They're less excited. And then the last one, you just kind of slide it in there. You're like, hey, you want to do one for me? And then it's always the best. But yeah. And that's that approach of tribe creation, where I've taken that 4 minutes out of the day to think of the vendors, and then give the vendors something that has never been given to them before. And not only do they have a referral from a couple, which is absolutely awesome in a referral based industry and something that you kind of need these reviews for, and kind of social proof's hard within the wedding industry because there's no return customers and it's so referral based. But being able to give them a tangible video of a couple speaking in their wedding dress and suit, saying how awesome you were to work with, like kind of outnumbers any written review any day. And me being able to give that to everyone, and it's in a way that all these vendors want more of those. And who gives them to you? Liam. So keep working with Liam, right? Like it's that tribe creation method, and similar to providing value to the couples, is I ensure to over deliver every day or every wedding. And no matter whether you booked it or not, or chose the package that provides a next day teaser, I'm going to give you one. And if you may not have booked the full ceremony, I'm probably still going to give it to you anyway, like just to over deliver, to ensure that, like, if you paid for package 1 or package 3, you're probably going to get package 3 anyway. You just cheated the system in a way. But it's that tribe creation method of really ensuring that everyone loves the work you provided.
Yeah, I really like that. And I mean, just to pile on the end there, like I think your point about value is the biggest that I've tried to promote as well, even what I'm doing. And I mean, obviously we'll see how it goes, or we'll come back to this video 6 months from now and see where we're at. But realistically, the point that I'm trying to do is similar to how you found an angle which other people are not doing, right? Yeah, so I mean, I guess the point that I was trying to drive home there is that, like you were saying, it's about value, right? And the way employers are providing value right now is they're hiring students, but their goal is not the same, right? Their goal is to extract value from the students as opposed to provide value to them, right? So that's where I see the opportunity for this community that we're trying to build through Discord right now, is is our chance to provide something to students that clearly there's a need. I mean, like the growth that I've seen in the last like 2 weeks alone has been enough to show me that there's a need for something, and Josh was saying it is on a global scale too, which is kind of surprising to see when you start doing stuff. But I mean, same as all the lessons that Liam's kind of taught us today about just trying things and sending messages out there and pushing it and getting the feedback and then hitting on it. Like I'm doing exactly the same thing. And I'm not sure if that relates exactly to this tribal concept, but I think it fits in, and it's the same kind of thing. Essentially, a community is the tribe, right?
Yeah, and Liam, I still think like you underestimate the level of thought that has kind of emerged there. Like to identify the market and then identify that the market is referral based and then facilitate the referrals while also benefiting yourself is like, I think there's a lot of other people who have attempted such things out there that have never even come up against some of those steps. So I don't know if anybody's going to buy your package 3 anymore, but I still think your business model might be somewhat viable.
Yeah. Anyone who listened to this just kind of broke the system. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We're gonna cut that part out anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so fun, and I recommend to anyone to just absolutely try it. And that's I've gone through so many iterations of how I compose my packages or how I handle the wedding day, and I'm really trying to hone down on just a system. So that way it is scalable and is teachable, because I've always been just intuitively doing it, which works for me, but doesn't work when I'm trying to tell other people how to do it. So it's something that I'm trying to, that's my next step of learning, is how to take what I know how to do and almost write it down. I hate writing, but how to, I'd rather talk, but how to tell someone how to show someone how to do it. So they remember,
outsource to a psychologically minded person. So I did have the one last question, which is kind of a closing one. So I don't know if Dan, you want to squeeze anything in between, but I was just going to ask like what you guys have worked on together, and Dan, how you see this relationship kind of unfolding as it goes forward.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Cool. So absolutely. Working with Dan was like the first kind of approach into this, what it's like to have someone consciously mentor you or direct you or support you. And it's one of those things that you always have, whether it's friends, teachers, peers, employers, parents. It can come from many forms of kind of mentorship or support. But having the first kind of clarified role of mentoring has been something that I have drastically valued and didn't know I valued or didn't know I needed in many ways. So that was the first kind of step, is to how valuable having someone to bounce ideas off of, with like a role of these people are to bounce your ideas off of. Because the first step was going to friends and say, hey, listen to this. And your friends more than likely, for me, didn't care, or they cared because they're your friend, but didn't care to see where it could be in 5 years, or what you are capable of accomplishing, knowing who you are. So, or just taking the idea. So it was, having that role was absolutely valuable and kind of the first step in all of these processes that we've mentioned. And then with Dan has then taken the next step of, okay, let's take in all these things you're capable of doing, and let's kind of learn to scale them, or let's to help you develop other people to fill the roles of doing things that you don't want to do. So it's kind of that, I don't know what you call it, that like matrix of things you're good at but like doing, and then things you like doing but aren't good at, and then things that you are good at but don't like doing, and then things you suck at and don't like doing. And how can you remove those bottom 2 tiers and just focus on the things you like doing and the things you're good at? And that's really what Dan has kind of pushed me towards doing in my next steps of all of these kind of ventures or ideas or projects that I like doing. And that's ultimately where I've gained so much value from Dan, and where Dan has helped me. And then Dan's a smart guy. So there's nothing you can say to Dan that you don't get a cool response back from. So
Well, I was just gonna say I'm gonna give a pretty not cool response now. 'Cause, I feel like Liam just mentored me because he just explained. I don't know how he came up with that, but like I never told him that. So he's definitely it's been an interesting relationship that we started off with, because initially I had was just throwing out these 3-month free mentorship packages like maybe 6 months ago, and Liam decided to take me up on it. We just started talking, and it's just kept going since then. And Liam's, it's very interesting for me to see the level that Liam is at, basically like 10 years before we are, right? Which is a cool thing to see, because like he's participating in these conversations and at the level that I definitely was not at the level that Liam's at back when we were his age, right? So it's cool for me to see Liam building his skills and trying out all these things, and really the mentorship in my mind is a way, right? And like you said, it's about bouncing ideas off of people, and I definitely have a lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis, and Liam has become one of those people in a very short time. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to continue working on things together. And we've already thought of at least a few different other angles or ideas besides a 6-hour podcast that we're eventually going to maybe try. So I'm excited to see what we're going to be able to come up with soon.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's where the approach of like where I started, and where I think a lot of people are afraid to start. But if there's anything you're capable of doing for low cost minus your time, like that's your upfront cost is whatever, and then just a little bit of your time, that it's absolutely almost essential when you're starting. And for me, that was Dan. And sure, it was an hour that I had to meet this guy in his dinky bedroom and had a Zoom call with him, but it provided so much that to the point where like you get to a point where it's worth paying for, or you develop the skills to get somewhere where you know how to grow without having to just devote your time. And it's all those things you just have to ensure. There could have I probably have done these other areas that didn't work out and I didn't even know it, but I would have never kind of taken those risks without trying, or without being willing to give up my time to try something.
Yeah, that's a really good take-home message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna start crying.
All right.
Damn.
Can you learn to love though?
Yeah.
I was just waiting to toss that in.
Have you thought about moving into like doing grad pictures at all?
Grad pictures. I personally would not ever enter photo. It's so saturated.
Okay.
I'm very money oriented, but like if you are looking for grad pictures, I have a ton of connections that would be happy to help you out.
Okay. No, I was just wondering if that was like something you were interested in doing, but okay.
Not I directly. It's photo's a whole new beast of challenges that I would rather not put myself into at where I am now. If I started 2 years ago, I might have dabbled in grad pictures, or I'd recommend or help someone else start within photo and grad pictures, but not.
There's
not
a big
for me.
difference between, like photo and video. The skills don't transfer over a whole lot.
The skills relatively do. Like there's the same fundamental techniques of just how a camera works. Like
Okay.
those, sure, they're not directly correlating. Like your shutter speed is a totally different function, like in video compared to photo. But in terms of like how you accomplish it, there's the very similar strategies that you use, and it's the same. Like it's an art that you have to use sales. You have to use your marketing. You have to kind of build a portfolio to showcase. Then people will come and people will want to book you, and you'll get probably asked every day, hey, do you want to work for free? Like that's just, I get that every day. I ask probably discounts, or hey, do you want to do this for $200? And it's How do you tell someone that you're not, or that's because I'm doing a whole day, but if you're doing grad pictures for an hour, they're like, oh, like why are we paying you? You're just taking the picture. Like it's how do you provide the value? That's where the real skill set comes in. It's far less related to your camera skills, although like you absolutely have to have those. It becomes how do you talk to the people to get them to want to pay you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, and I see that's a huge, like, if you can do that, you will dominate any creative industry, because every creative is so art focused. And I think I've mentioned this, Dan, I don't think I mentioned it within this hour, but if you understand business, sales, marketing, you will dominate any creative, whether it's grad photos, photo, like graphic design, UX. You'll just absolutely dominate your area, because so many people create the best art but either undercharge or undervalue themselves, or just can't find their clients, or have an amazing portfolio but don't know how to properly show it off, is such a weakness that a lot of people have. And it's something Dan and I have talked about, and how do we help people combat this weakness, because you think artistically and not business. But yeah, like the first recommendation within grad photos is like, if you're a student, get other students, find them, because you know they need them. And
no, exactly.
Sure, you'll, like, especially now, like, find groups of 5 or groups of 3, like, hey, you want to do grad photos, and sure, you might be doing them for free to start off because you have to. But then there's a point where, like, you become good, your portfolio exists, and then it's, let's get these people to pay, whether it's an Instagram page, whether it's just kind of your personal branding, and you post them, like you make a story highlight on your Instagram. It's like all these grad photos I've taken, because I'm sure, like, I have like 300 followers on my business Instagram, and I'm generating, like, probably once a week I get a $2,000 paying lead. You don't need the followers, but it all comes from my, like, personal and, like, friends referring friends. And, like, sure, you don't want to ruin your feed or post pictures of other people. Like, that's what I didn't want to do that. And if you want to do that, awesome. But if you don't, like, just post a story and say, like, the biggest strategy that I have is I post, it sounds dumb, but I post a story and I just, like, put the polls, and it's like, hey, the polls are, have you booked Liam wedding films for your wedding? And then, like, the options are yes, and the options are, like, DM me more info. And sure, like, only like 10, 12 people ever press them. But the 5 people that press, that's like, say, DM me more info, are like 5 people who are inviting you to message them. Those are 5 people who are, like, literally open the door to give you, to, like, book you. And it's now you have a DM conversation to sell them. And it's, you say, hey, you ask them what they graduated from, like, but it's almost like Tinder or dating in a way. Like, that's, you have to, you don't bring up grad photos. You talk about them, get them to build a relationship with you, and then you say, like, they'll actually, in most cases, they'll probably bring it up to you and be like, oh, how much do you cost? And then be like, okay, well, now figure out what they need. What are you interested in? Say, okay, they ask, you don't ever answer the question. They ask, what do you cost? You say, okay, well, what do you want? And you say it like how I say it is, okay, like, first question I ask is, I actually tell them to go fill out my contact form, and it gives me like 5 points about them. I know when their wedding is, where it is, and I know a little bit of details about them. I can usually, like, stalk them on Instagram and kind of find out if they're, like, a perfect fit for me. But if you're doing it all in the DMs, that sounds like a meme. But if you're kind of trying to message someone that way, and they ask, like, how much do you charge, then you'll find out, you're like, okay, like, how many pictures are you looking for? How many friends? Like, that'll be your first question, an introductory, very base level question. And you'll find, and then sometimes they won't know, sometimes they will know. And if they don't know, that's awesome, because then you get to really provide even more value and be like, okay, like, if you want to get 3 to 5 of your friends together and meet at this one location for half an hour, that's, like, my best selling package. Everyone loves this. And I give you all 10 amazing photos. We can have some fun. You can bring, like, a champagne and pop it, or you'll bring that, like, you provide even more value, and be like, I'll do this for $150. And then even break it down and be like, that's $20 a person, or that's $30 a person. Like, that, even really emphasize, like, how easy this is for them, for you, for half an hour.
Yeah.
And they literally invited you to tell them this, so they're interested. And sure, that's really rudimentary, like, right now, where you would start. And then if you have a website and if you have a business, you can really implement more strategies around this. But yeah, if you're starting grad photos, that's how I'd recommend doing it. Yeah, is that?
There you go. It's $20, Andrew.
Yeah, no, I just know a lot of people.
Yeah, is the first advice free? Is that hard? Or...
But yeah, sorry, you know a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I just know a lot of people who are graduating around me that, like, struggled to find a photographer for grad photos. I don't know if they were just expecting a really cheap price or something like that, but
Yeah.
you know, there's definitely a need there sometimes.
Yeah, and that's sometimes where there's a huge opportunity for a beginner. If there's no beginner, then be the beginner, and people will all like kind of like climb all over you to get your time. If everyone's somewhere, it's like going to, I don't know how to explain it. If you're a cheaper keg, everyone will be going to you.
Yeah.
Everyone goes to Milestones, right? Like it's yeah, if you can kind of find that need and opportunity, absolutely fill it. And then eventually you'll be good enough and have a brand, and all those people who graduate this year will tell their friends who graduate next year, oh, book Andrew. Like, and that's
Nice.
over deliver. Yeah.
I have so many title thoughts for this episode, like Fill Your Needs with Liam, or Interviewing the Best Co-op Ever with Liam, or yeah, I think you had another one too.
Or will Liam find love?
Is he even capable?
Oh,
That should be a challenge
actually,
for next month, Liam.
yeah. Dan, my next challenge is how I had this idea. This is a business idea, totally unrelated. But I want to find a way to like theoretically date people. But like, and this is, but like not in like a sexual or romantic way, just like
And let's do this. I'm in.
Provide the moral and like supportive role to people who need it. Does that make sense? Like it's essentially life coach, but like I just wanted to say it different.
Did you see the article of the guy who dated a girl for I forgot. It was like
month?
Yeah, and he got a birthday present every day or every month for like years.
That's genius. Absolutely genius.
He got charged with fraud, but it lasted a long time. I'm curious if his bail was worth more than his presents.
All
profit.
All right, well, Liam,
yeah.
without getting into it, I'm on board 100%. So I might cut this part out of the video because
Dan's been trying to date everyone he's met since
idea.
he's been 18. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But
how
Andrew, do you have any other? This is the stuff I love doing. Like, do you have any other questions, Andrew? Like anything?
No, but
I just want to like help.
I think the way you talk about creating value like nobody else did was really interesting. So thanks for that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where I say once again, like bring the champagne, don't make them bring it. Like,
yeah, that's a really good point.
And whether you have to charge an extra $20 and they don't know it, like, cause you got to go buy it, like do that. Like just absolutely like, sure, your prices might be $20 more than everyone else, but like once you become have a few photos under your belt, like you're worth the $20 more because you're providing an experience compared to just photos. And that's like, people don't forget that. Like people will forget like, oh, like they'll look at their photos and maybe like in 5 years they'll look at the photos again, but they're not going to forget that one time all their friends got together to take their grad photos and had their champagne and the photographer brought it like a speaker and played your fun songs. Like it's the experience. Yeah. Value comes in many ways. It's also understanding the people. That's why I do that whole DM process of getting to know someone. They also get to know you. You don't always have to give up information about you, but like talk to them before you mention business or until they mention business. Like they'll tell you all about themselves. So just, keep asking questions. What program are you in? Where'd you go to school? Oh, try and find out as much about them. And then you can really cater the value you're bringing to them. Because go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Liam. I was just thinking. When I worked for the hotel, we did a lot of wedding setup, and just riding off your point about and tying it back to something we talked about in the past episode, like solving problems for people. And like the person who's doing the wedding setup has so much on their mind, and if you're there to unburden them, even if it's the small things like you mentioned, bringing the champagne or just like saying, hey, like we're gonna proactively deal with this, so just get it off your mind, like just clear your schedule a little bit. That's a huge like thing that you can do to help people out and just make their lives easier. So
one thing, this is kind of just like saying things I do, but literally before the wedding day and on the wedding day, I text the couple. I'm like, if there's anything you need, I'll run to Shoppers or the dollar store. And
there you go.
One time I've had to run and get bobby pins, but like that's it. And it's like, I don't even know what bobby pins are. I had to Google search a picture of bobby pins. I don't know, having like this kind of hair, you wouldn't know, but yeah, it's that kind of like I've only once, but it's just something that can take their mind off of a problem that you solved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this is like so fun. Do you guys want to go for another 5 hours?
No. I don't think Andrew wants to be dragged on for another
Yeah.